Say it with me. Childhood sexual abuse is a physical injury. And that is the perspective that I had to come to all on my own, and that many adult survivors realize sometimes too late or never. So when you are physically injured, when you get a cut, when you get a sprain, you immediately go to the site of the injury, of the wound, or when you go to the hospital, when someone tends to you, they immediately go and give you wound care. They tend to the physical experience that you had. And meanwhile, or after, they'll say, okay, how are you feeling? How did you get it? Are you okay? But nevertheless, they tend to the physical nature of the experience that you had. And on top of that, right, they'll give you a band-aid, you change your band-aid every so often, you have a little peroxide, some alcohol, or you get physical therapy. But nevertheless, in the same way that they're asking if you are okay, they don't stop tending to the physical injury that you experience. Now, with childhood sexual abuse, you find that immediately what is suggested is talk therapy. And granted, if the abuse or the assault that does take place is egregious and severe, where sometimes children do experience clear physical harm, and that is to assume that that child was able to communicate that to the guardian or the parent, whoever was in their care, because there are many adults who do experience severe physical injuries from their abuse, and they do not tell anyone. They hide it. So that is to assume that there was even a outcry or disclosure that did happen in that time that that individual, that young child did experience the abuse. So all of that to say that generally you will find that a physical injury in sexual nature takes place, but we are encouraged to do talk therapy of some sort. And also with children, depending, they may do some play therapy, they may do some creative therapy, which is amazing because that keeps the body at the center. But oftentimes, right, there is very little disclosure. And even if there is disclosure, there is very little follow-up and care that is that the guardians or the community that the child is in the care of, they take account for. So then we grow up in adulthood in bodies that are in need of physical release, physical tending to. And like myself, I began self-harming early on. I had suicidal ideations and attempts. I self-medicated for years. The longest that I was sober in my adult life was a year and 2 months. And that was mostly because I did my priesthood, which it required me to be sober in my religion. And also now where I am sober and I don't smoke weed, where I'm medicated with weed and other drugs, I barely drink. But needless to say that many adult survivors like myself, we self-medicated. We had obsessions with individuals, addictions to pornography and other forms of behaviors that were not because we wanted to, but because we had such physical discomforts and little skill about how to process the sensations and the pain and the anguish that we were experiencing. And that unfortunately, the communities and the parental figures, the guardians that we had in our lives could not model the support that we needed, because this perspective about it being a physical injury is rarely ever spoken about for many reasons. that I think are too much in particular for this video. But when I understood that this is a physical injury, then it opened up the possibility for me to actually do the practical healing that I needed. So, all of this to say that changing the perspective just a bit on the type of healing that childhood sexual abuse is going to then open up more lanes for the opportunities that you have to actually find relief and begin to live a life that you desire. Because once we understand that it's a physical injury and that our bodies are involved, then naturally we are going to begin to engage with our body in a different way, which then allows us by design is going to allow us to then really begin to be more present in the decisions that we do in the decisions that we make in our sex lives, and actually have more hope in having that fulfilling sexual experience that we deserve and we've been looking for.